So, know any good stories to pass the time?
What kind of story?
I don't know. Mother always had stories. Weren't you told any when you were a boy?
One of my favourite forms of storytelling is gaming. One of those best examples is God of War. I think most people, if they don't respond with, "What's that?" will picture something along the lines of, and not this.
She was a gifted sorceress. Find her lost husband's enchantments, the end and the beginning. Thor's hands, Ragnarok.
If you haven't played the game, God of War follows the journey of Kratos and Atreus fulfilling their wife and mother's dying wishes of spreading her ashes at the highest peak in all of the Norse realms. Along this journey, it's a common occurrence to come across large bodies of water and traverse them in a boat. Aside from the initial 15 steps, sailing is the very first thing you do in this entire game. God of War was designed with 3 core pillars in mind.
That ahead is difficult. And you, Atreus, are clearly not ready.
They're essentially the DNA of the whole game. The boat to me is the most amazing example of the exploration pillar in action because, in theory, it should be a boring mechanic. In a game with one of the best combat loops I've ever experienced. Fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, brutal combat that awakens my inner Doomslayer. This serene contrast should be the last thing I would want in the same game. It's like the MJ missions in Spider-Man. It's like, guys, you know why I'm here. This ain't it. Fundamentally, getting from A to B can look like anything. The possibilities, especially in a game, are endless. Some games would feel wrong without them, like GTA without any vehicles or Spider-Man without the web sling. The exploration is intrinsic to the DNA of the whole game. I know fast travel is a thing, that's not what I'm talking about here. The boat is a masterclass of play freedom, well-handled exposition, and creating many small, meaningful moments. There are 2 main things that blew me away about the boat. 1, the fluid control and movement, and 2, the storytelling mechanic laid over the top of the whole thing. Starting with movement mechanics, while it may not feel particularly special, the attention to detail here is insane. Most people, including myself, don't understand the intricacies and complexities of the boat's mechanics. We don't notice that there are over 600 unique animations for the boat. 600! We don't notice that timing windows have been placed during the paddle stroke animation that allows the oar to change from side to side whilst maintaining the correct rowing phase. We don't know that the boat originally had its power coming from the center, but it was moved to the back to give it a sense of rear wheel drive and made it feel more natural. We don't know that the boat actually knows if it's docked from the left or the right and plays one of 20 exit animations. And we don't know the decisions for the controls either, like the reason that boat movement was consolidated entirely to the left stick so the player can use the right stick to look around and actually see the environment around them since it's the main form of exploration in the game. It's all entirely a feeling thing, like it's not something that you necessarily see. The boat feels incredibly smooth and natural, which is why I think it flies under the radar. The truth is that people mostly notice things when they aren't right. This is something I appreciated right from the beginning. There are over 750 lines of dialogue recorded for the boat. That is insane. This is how the devs baked the narrative pillar or father and son elements directly into the exploration of the game. Once you step foot into the boat, audio clips based on events which happen in the game are conditionally played back, but in a way that feels natural to Kratos and Atreus' characters, whilst maintaining complete player freedom. And it doesn't feel cringe to me in a way that often similar games' dreaded mobile conversations can. They don't sing sea shanties, this isn't Assassin's Creed Black Flag, it's Kratos the fucking God of War.
I'm a fucking God of War.
Instead, the characters share lessons and tales of the world, all with surprising depth. For example, Kratos tells a story about a horse and a hunter, which is actually a fabled version of his own origins.
There was a horse. The horse sought vengeance upon his enemy, a stag, but he could not kill the stag alone. The horse met a man, a hunter, and made a deal. Together, they killed the stag, and the horse tasted victory. But the hunter would not release the horse and made a slave of him.
So getting revenge cost him his freedom. Hope it was worth it.
It was not.
There were many times where I get so invested in a story being told that I just sit at the dock waiting for the character to finish the story before I continued onward. There's even payoff to these stories. Early on in the game, there are 3 separate sequences where Kratos teaches Atreus the terms of starboard and port.
Port is left, starboard is right. Right?
Not your right. Where the boat faces, port is left, and starboard
is right. Right. I knew that.
Way later in the game, when you're on a boat trying to escape hell, Atreus refers to the location of enemies on the boat using the terms I witnessed him learn.
Right, sir! Let's go! Just trying to put out the fire! Right hand side! I mean, starboard!
Okay, surely after a while, Kratos and Atreus' tales would become repetitive, right? Enter
Mimir, smartest man alive.
who adds even more depth to the whole boat story mechanic. His inclusion is so clever because most of the time he fleshes out the lore of the world with the perspective of someone who was there. He can just pour out exposition in a way that makes me want to listen and makes narrative sense.
There was a giant once named Thamur. A very giant, who, despite his mountainous size, was without question the greatest stonemason this world had ever seen. Sadly, he caught the eye of the one person he didn't want to meet alone that night. Thor.
And? What happened next?
You'll see.
What killed him?
Cheers for that, Alistair Neil Duncan. We fucking adore you. I'm spending a lot of time praising all the mechanics surrounding these moments, but the performance element of each story can't be understated either. But with complete player control, what if I interrupt a story by exiting the boat before it has ended? No problem. Each story is broken into individual lines, so if you sit and listen in the boat, the audio plays through the story beginning to end as normal.
There was a tale of a frog. His pond had dried up, so the frog and his son left to find a new home.
However, if you dock, it branches into an outro.
But set that aside. We must proceed on foot.
Can we finish later?
Perhaps.
So then, when you re-enter the boat, an intro plays that leads straight back into the story where you left off.
So, what happened when the frog found the well?
Wisely. They moved on.
That's it?
Yes.
It's really not a story.
This system is applied to both Kratos and Mimir's stories, often with Atreus acting as one of those bridges, and the execution just immerses me into not only Kratos and Atreus' journey, but the lore of the Norse world too. All in all, the movement and storytelling mechanics of the boat create a unique approach to a commonly missed opportunity in gaming. The boat provides perfect breathing room between exhilarating combat encounters in a way that invites players deeper into the lore of the Norse world without taking away any element of player freedom. Whether that's exploring every inch of the overworld and hearing a story broken into 4 chapters, or floating next to a dock and hanging off every word, the boat is an amazing tool of immersion, so much so that I look forward to how the devs handle new forms of transportation in the upcoming sequel. Thanks for watching.